What's up, everybody? Coach Ben podcast number 62, I believe.
Something sounds about right. Yeah.
This is we're still at my academy in Arcadia, California.
Beautiful Southern California.
Southern California. Opening up. I'm not sure how long, if you see my new tent, Jim, I have a bigger tent outside.
Oh, I didn't notice. That's a glorious tent that you have out there.
Yes.
Which the outdoor stuff's pretty cool. I got to say.
You know what? Training outdoors is pretty nice.
It's pretty cool.
It's pretty nice.
And
you
we're
get a
in
nice
Southern
cool,
California.
You get a nice cool breeze. You know, you breathe in fresh air.
Is that going to
Training
be a regular
outdoors
thing?
pretty cool. I don't know, because you have to in the city of Arcadia, California, you have to have a permit to have outdoor tenting stuff. And once the COVID protocols are over, they're going to charge you an arm and a leg to even have a tent.
For that permit?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
This is, you have to, and I don't blame them, because every business would have like a huge tent out. Why would you not? You expand your square footage just by using the sidewalk.
Yeah.
Why would you not? A courtyard.
And you have a nice courtyard in front of your academy, too.
I basically have another 1,000 square feet of mat space right outside. If I can just roll out mats and put a tent. Shout out to Muscle Farm for selling a friend of mine all their mats, and I have picked up some of them. All my mats say Muscle Farm on them. Yeah, we're not even sponsored by Muscle Farm.
No, but go out and get one, because Muscle Farm is a fine company that's been fined by us.
Yes.
So, which brings us into a formerly sponsored athlete of Muscle Farm.
Oh, yes.
Who had some interesting things to say, and we were talking about one Gordan Ryan, and he was on Joe Rogan's. And then they got into a talk about competitive jiu-jitsu and the future of competitive jiu-jitsu. And Gordan stated that he believes the Ghee will be dead in the matter of a decade. Will be pretty much dead.
Phased out in 10 years.
Phased out in 10 years for competitive jiu-jitsu.
Yes. So this is a big statement, because when you think of Brazilian jiu-jitsu, there's probably not 5 things you think of before you think of the Ghee, right? That's like one of the first things you think of usually. So the Ghee is almost like as much a part of jiu-jitsu as submissions, as the name Gracie, as hoist, all these things, UFC. It's just like, it's weird to even consider jiu-jitsu without some aspect of the Ghee. But on this podcast, when we talk, Jim, it's all about practicality. It's all about truth. It's all about, what is really happening. We're not trying to put judgments on things. Like, I don't really care if you like the Ghee or if you don't like the Ghee. I like the Ghee, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if I like the Ghee. If what he says is true, then there needs to be practical things that, not that you need to or you should do, but you should think about these things. If you own an academy or if you train jiu-jitsu, it would not. So I'll just use myself as an example. I have an academy, and I think that I am gearing my classes more toward no Ghee. And the reason is, this is way before. I've been saying this for years. I said this I think I told you this 2 years ago, that the sport's heading toward no Ghee, blah blah blah. And I agree with Gordan, and I'll give you the reasons why in a second. But what do you think, Jim? Do you agree with him?
I think he has a very solid point. I think he has a solid point about, and I think the key here is competitive jiu-jitsu.
Yes.
So
spectator
and then we can get into all the nuance of the culture of jiu-jitsu, but I think he's spot on. I mean, I don't see any other reason in this day and age why that wouldn't be true.
Money. It's at the end of the day.
Well, it's the numbers. It's like,
exactly.
look at all these marquee events.
Yeah.
We have Submission Underground.
Yeah.
We have Fight to Win. We have Polaris. We have all these showcase. Who's number one?
Right.
We have all these showcase type of events, not tournaments, but showcase type of
super fight events.
Speaking of
ADCC.
Yeah, and speaking of tournaments, we have EBI.
Right.
It's like, these are all no Ghee. And
right.
these are all the pay-per-view events.
Yes.
So
there are some like rare pay-per-view events that are Ghee, like EUG. That's not pay-per-view. That was
Polaris.
Polaris. Fight Pass. But even Polaris is kind of
they're leaning.
They're leaning. Fight to Win is leaning. I remember, Seth was big. He's always big in the Ghee. He's a judo guy, but he would have a lot of Ghee, Ghee fights in the main events.
Yeah, look at all the recent ones.
There's been a little more no Ghee. It's just it's a numbers game. We're not talking. It's not right or wrong or good or bad. We're not money hungry, but it is what it is. When there's money behind something, there's a reason for that, right? It's not like, oh, we follow the money. It's more about we follow people's interest, and people put their money where the interest is.
And it tends to be a bit more exciting. It tends to be to the untrained eye, because that's where your
more
masses.
Action.
Yes,
there's less stalling. You can't grab.
Right.
But also, this is something that I don't think people talk about or think about is skin. People like to see muscles. They like to see women, showing more. Right? It's not the Ghee covers up a lot of the women. Point. And that just is what it is.
Great point.
Right? It just is what it is. The Ghee covers up, men.
That's a really good point.
You can't do shirtless in a Ghee, right? It's just you got to wear the Ghee.
The Ghee.
You want to.
You're right. The aesthetic of an athlete.
Right. Pat Downey in the last fight to win, shirtless, slamming the guy. Was he? I don't even remember, but he was definitely shirtless in many of these events, slamming people. That's what you want to. As a spectator, that's what you want to see. You don't want to see two guys scissoring in 50-50. And I don't. There's nothing against that. It's just that's the average jiu-jitsu fan. Maybe parent of a kid that trained that if they even watch jiu-jitsu, they're probably going to watch the high action, high the high people, many people watching. It's where the trends go, right? What just happened last week, right? We had UFC, we had boxing, Canelo and Billy Joe Saunders, right? You're not talking about you're talking about Canelo and Billy Joe Saunders because they're at the highest level. They sell the most tickets. They sell the most pay-per-views. That is the biggest. They're the number one, and whatever Billy Joe was, but they're two undefeated. Or Billy Joe was undefeated, and Canelo had one loss to Mayweather. Like, this is exciting stuff, right? You watch these things because they bring the eyeballs, and that's really what Gordan, I think, is talking about. He's talking about the Ghee is going to be phased out because there's not going to be any money behind it. There's not going to be any interest behind it, and it'll be probably just a fringe martial arts thing. I'll always train the Ghee. I think the Ghee is great, but we're
talking competitive.
Yeah, when you're talking, it's just more exciting when you see people attacking, leg locks and wrestling and jumping all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, look at you have someone like Nicky Rod,
yes,
right? Who's a Division I collegiate wrestler. Division III, collegiate wrestler who comes in as a blue belt to ADCC and makes all kinds of noise because it's no Ghee.
Yeah.
He would have never done that in Ghee.
No way.
But the fact that it opens the competition field up a lot more to the Nicky Rod types of all weight divisions, because if these guys, they have a strong wrestling base, hey man, learn a few submission holds, learn a few jiu-jitsu positions.
Yeah, an athletic guy could do it.
In the next 8 years, where's the ADCC going to be with that open field?
Yeah, you never know, and I think, exactly. Just it gives. No Ghee is more reliant on physicality. There's less trickery. I wouldn't say there's less. It's just like physicality has a bigger piece of the pie.
Yeah, it's a bit more. Yes, exactly. It's a bit more entertaining to watch, especially to laymen, because it's just faster. Whether or not it's good technically, the casual may not be into all the technique.
They don't even know what the technique is.
Exactly. They see this struggle and transition. There's a lot of action. People spinning off the back of another person. I don't know what I just saw, but god dang, these guys are going at it.
Right.
So and I've always thought this too. Like, I've posed this question for years: is what would make jiu-jitsu an Olympic sport? There's no Ghee. It has to be no Ghee.
Why not the Ghee though?
Because for all the said reasons, I think it slows it
judo?
down. Judo's there already,
right?
And I think it has its place. So we have like a differential, because it doesn't look like judo, doesn't look like taekwondo, where a lot of people wouldn't.
Yeah, you're right.
Difference.
It would look very different because people would be on their back. It wouldn't look like wrestling.
It wouldn't look like judo, because you flip it on, it's like, oh, these are judo guys.
Yeah,
you wouldn't even know. But I really think that eventually one day,
judo even did everything it could to make the sport exciting to the spectator. You get that? So if judo, even with the gi, was doing, because the matches were getting crazy boring, because I don't know this for a fact, but this is what I've been told, is at a certain point people were just grabbing legs and doing double leg takedowns, and that was why judo decided they wanted the high amplitude throws, and so you couldn't grab a leg and you couldn't grip the cross collar for more than X amount of time. So these are things that they did, right? So jiu-jitsu, they are probably going to do the same if they want to be an Olympic sport. You got to take the most exciting form of jiu-jitsu, because at the end of the day, even the Olympics is a numbers game. It's eyeballs, right? I'm pretty sure the USA basketball team is going to have a little more privileges than let's say the
other tiers,
the rowing
than
team,
the equestrian team or something.
So it's just it's eyeballs, it's eyeballs. Their accommodations will probably be different. Everything will be different. So
of course, I
think what Gordon's saying is he's getting a little bit of backlash, but no one's really disagreeing with him, except for maybe some traditionalists.
Is that the backlash?
There's no backlash. It's really just people are mainly saying that, well, of course he's going to say that because he's biased and he doesn't train the gi. He wants to, that's actually not what I think is happening, because if a guy like Gordon wanted to he's making his life actually harder by making these statements, right? Because you know what I'm saying? Like, wouldn't he want half the people to train the gi and the other half to train no gi so he could continue to beat everybody's ass? Like, that's really how he's beating a lot of people right now. It's because he's just overtraining past like their capability, right? Like, I always use Kynan because I like Kynan. He's a friend, and he cannot compete with Gordon just on the scale of he has to split time. The guy's a world champion, gi, and ADCC champion. Like, how are you going to beat a guy who specializes in one thing?
Yeah, while you're getting in your gi workouts, guess what? He's tacking on some more
he's constantly
hours.
Building while you're building and stopping and building. It's like I have a building, but I can only work on it Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and you can work on it 7 days a week.
Yeah,
who's going to win this building contest, right?
Yeah.
So Gordon actually, I sense more truth in what Gordon's saying, because he's actually against what would benefit him. He doesn't really benefit from that, and maybe monetarily.
Well, no, he does.
Maybe monetarily, but
he does, and that's all fine. But I think it's a fair point.
He doesn't think that way, is what I'm saying. He probably doesn't think.
He doesn't. Yeah, he
doesn't care about competition.
Exactly.
Yeah,
bring it is his message. And it's like, as a matter of fact, I suggest you concentrate on no gi,
right,
like I am doing, so I can beat you, and there's no other excuses.
That's probably what the great ones.
So he's great. He's simply great. Regardless of how people may think of him, about his social presence, listen, that you can't take that away from him. The dude is great. If we're talking about jiu-jitsu, if we're talking about what he's accomplishing and what he's doing right before our very eyes, there's no other real adjective to describe what he's doing. It's great. That's my opinion, and happens to coincide with some facts. So
there's really no opinion there. It's not. It's at
well,
this
the fact
point,
he's great. There's some people that'd be like, well, that's your opinion.
What is
blah, blah,
if
blah, blah.
if he's not great at the sport of no-gi jiu-jitsu, then name me a person who is.
Yeah, define
like, honestly,
great.
Like, what do you mean?
Exactly.
Are you talking about a god that doesn't exist, or what are you talking about? Like, this guy is like 50 something and zero. Like, how are you gonna? How do you define it? But
it's
anyway, the statement he made, I think, is really just a statement of a predictive statement of the future, right. and I don't care what anybody does about it. But me, in my academy, I've changed half of my classes to no-gi. So I would actually say more than half. I teach now 3 days a week no-gi and 2 days a week gi, versus before I used to do. There were times where we did 3-4 days a week, 5 days a week gi, and we didn't do no-gi. And I just, at a certain point, you have a Flow Grappling membership, and you look at it, and you're just like, what the fuck? There's no gi events. Like, I don't even know. I can't even keep up with the trends, because every event is no gi.
Absence of gi events, right? Not no gi, but absence of gi events.
And honestly, gi, there's more layers. So simplicity, to me, is always the best, right? So when it comes to being a generalist, I'm always a generalist.
Yeah, and I think, and that's a fair point. And then that's, man, it's very dependent.
Translates to MMA.
Yeah, it translates to MMA, but
Somewhat.
here's the thing. And I think you could agree, is that when you see two guys hell-bent on trying to get a submission, even if it's Ghee, then there are more things available. But
Yes.
both guys have to be willing to dance. And that just doesn't happen. That doesn't happen. And that's a fair criticism of what Gordan was saying in that podcast, as far as guys, they get an advantage, then they stall. And man, unfortunately, we both know that to be true.
Part of that is actually because I think it's part of that is because of the rule set too.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because of
is.
no reaping, no heel hooks.
Yeah,
what if you had
absolutely
heel
is.
hooks in the gi? I mean, like, wouldn't it be? I watched a lot of third coach grappling. They have heel hooks in the gi at some of the super fights, and they're way more exciting. Like, people are getting heel hooked from 50-50.
Dude, gi can be exciting.
It can be,
But the window is smaller because it takes both guys to play.
and there's also the element that we talked about earlier, which is the skin. Right?
Yeah.
I mean,
I like that point.
Just
I
is
never
the
thought
truth.
about that.
It's not.
No.
It's not like. Look, would you rather watch women in bathrobes or women in bikinis? Would you rather watch men shirtless or men, wear an astronaut suit? Like, it's just,
generally
is what it is.
speaking, when you're talking about high level athletes who
Right.
tend to have that
they have the
that
look.
that stereotypical.
You want to see
superhero
what's going
athlete.
on. You want to see what you want, like superheroes. You can't see the body when they're covered up in the gi and a belt, and it is what it is.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
But an interesting note though. This will be an interesting, and I guess 10 years from now, you and I will be here talking about this and maybe following up on this topic. Is I wonder, because then there are like trends.
Yeah.
And when something goes away, sure, it gets forgotten about, all this time gets invested in a certain area. I wonder if there would ever be a time where someone brings back the gi and does all this cool stuff, because I still think people will work in the gi, but I don't know, man. It's very interesting because with the absence of competition, high-level competition, high-level payments, it's, man.
You can even say this. Even the most prestigious gi competition, IBJJF, their tournaments, even they have decided to go toward the no gi trend, right? Heel hooks and reaping at brown belt. This next Pan Am is this weekend, actually, Saturday.
Yeah.
Friday, just Saturday, or so. It's like 4 days. Why would they make this change unless they see the writing on the wall, right? So
yeah, well, I think that has little to do with gi or no gi as it does to just the evolution of where the techniques are, because they do have a no gi pants, which when they
that's
brought
what
that
it
in,
is. Yeah, this is what this weekend is. Yeah.
right? So they have the two different pants.
But
right?
what was crazy is back in the day, I didn't hear much about the no gi pants or the no gi worlds. Really, I mean, I was going to the no gi worlds with my friends. I was in
like an afterthought.
Yeah, I was like, I almost won the no gi.
True
worlds.
that.
I was like Master 1. I was like, I think I got like third or something. Master 1. It was it was no gi worlds. It was San Francisco, and I was like, nowadays, oh God, you gotta be kidding me. Adult no gi worlds. At black belt, you're going against like the killers of the killer, because now that the rule has changed, all those athletes that didn't want to mess with the rules, so they get DQ'd, they're all back. Like this weekend, they have like Oliver Taza is in there. There's a bunch of people that I can already see they're going to heel hook the crap out of their competition. So anyway, they even the biggest gi organization, they are adapting to the no, because if they were more focused on gi, why would they even care? Why would they even care about this? Because it actually introduces complications to the rules, right? I mean, the IBJJF gi rules, I don't know if you've been to a refs course. It is freaking it's like learning a discipline, another discipline. It's that complicated sometimes, for somebody who's not a professional ref. Now you're going to add, reaping is allowed in one thing at certain belts, and then is not allowed under brown belt, purple belt, blue, but you can't do reaping. It literally creates chaos. Like they shouldn't do this, but they did. So there has to be a reason for it. And I think it's just they see the writing on the wall, and they know what's up. That might be the future, and just the Pan Ams are happening this weekend. I already have a tough time watching it because it's so spread out and it's just so chaotic. There's like 18 matches. It's chaos, right?
Right.
But you know what? They get a lot of views. And I guarantee you, once they see the views that they're going to get in this Pan Ams, I expect more changes into that direction.
It'll be it'll be interesting because there's so many variables. This being the actual first no-gi event since the pandemic and stuff.
Few, but just not this big.
No.
Not televised.
The pans.
Oh, right.
So it'll be interesting because last year, let me see. Wait, they did put it together. No, they canceled it at the last minute or something like that.
I don't even remember. I don't even know what happened last week.
Yeah,
but
right.
that's yeah. I mean,
let's get out of competition for a second and talking about the relevance of the Ghee. So the Ghee is dead in competition, or will be in in 10 years. That's
maybe they'll have like local competition, like the IBJJF Worlds will probably always be around.
Yeah, I think that'll exactly. I think that'll always be around.
If people stop doing the Ghee and
guess who's working to be a world champion?
I'm coming back
right.
for that world championship, Masters 4.
That's right. But like the lifestyle, community, and culture. Do you think the Ghee will ever be eradicated?
No. In jiu-jitsu, no. It's just
because everyone wants to be like a pro athlete or identify along with, right?
I mean, even MMA fighters occasionally wear the Ghee. It's almost like a vanity thing. It's like
Anderson loves wearing the Ghee.
Yeah, because he's a martial artist. Most martial artists like to wear belts and Ghees because they have some ingrained, honor,
lore,
yeah, exactly.
I mean, the whole thing about do you wash your belt? It's like that shouldn't even be a question, right? But we did an episode on that a while back. Do you wash your belt? Yeah, wash your belt. But to that, the lore of the uniform, because that's what they wore, and and ninja sects and
Yeah, why do people wear samurai outfits?
Yeah.
Right? Like why? Because they like the lore. They like the
lore of it.
I'd wear a samurai outfit right now. It's like
that'd be dope.
So even if, let's say, the Ghee competition scene goes away, somebody's gonna pull out a Ghee and roll with it.
Yeah, because I think
no way it's gonna go away.
The other factor we deal with is that it's just more people practicing Ghee and have no interest in competition. There are a majority of people that practice jiu-jitsu that have no intention of competing whatsoever. Don't want to. I would say that's the majority of our community.
Right.
So the fact that that's the case, I don't think the Gee's ever going away.
There's probably more people competing in some sort of grappling that is no Ghee as opposed to the Ghee, right? Because if you say like wrestling is really grappling without a Ghee. So if you take all the world's wrestlers, I mean, it might be more people doing no Ghee, right?
Well, if we're not necessarily,
not jiu-jitsu, though.
Yeah. So
it's not jiu-jitsu.
You said grappling,
right? But those people could be no Ghee grapplers in a drop of a hat. You put the Ghee on them. That's some people aren't going to come over.
Exactly.
So I actually think. I think Gordon's 100% right. It's just the degree of which he's right. We'll never know. Like next year, Elon Musk could put on a Ghee, and next thing you know, 500,000 people decide to.
Well, I'll tell you what.
Who knows?
I'll tell you what. I mean, the idea of competition that will never go away.
Right.
Competing under Ghee is here to stay. But to Gordon's point, it's like, when these guys start making like legit, I can live off of this competition money and get acknowledged as a pro athlete, which Gordon is setting. Let's face it, man. Gordon is setting that path right now. He's showing. He's giving everyone the blueprint, and for people to follow. And then once these no-gi grapplers are making six-figure paydays on the regular, maybe even that one exceptional super fight that's $1 million. Then we will call him right without a shadow of a doubt, regardless if there's still Ghee competitions, because what he's saying is that those Ghee competitors, pound for pound, apples to apples, they will not be making that kind of money in the same timeline as what he's talking about.
Yeah, people are going to see this. Like, I'm not going to make a judgment on this, but I'm just going to tell you how I see it, how it is. And a lot of the people who are making money in the sport of jiu-jitsu, like, I'm not even talking about Gordon, right? I'm talking about like maybe some of the lesser known competitors that are on the Danaher team, right? I'm almost certain that those guys are more famous, more well paid, they have better sponsorships because of, who they are and who they're affiliated with and their competition results than people maybe that have been training the Ghee from Brazil, they've been training 3 times longer, 5 times longer. And these people are watching this, like, on their couch, like thinking like, man, like I train hard every day, I train hard every day in the gi, and I've been training 15 years, and this guy's been training 5 years, Nicky Rod training 5 years. He's a purple belt, and he's making, $10,000 for super fight. I lost money doing the last like IBJJF Worlds in the gi, and the sponsor didn't pay me, and people talking shit online. It's like, God, like why am I doing like that's got to be there, right? And when people the sunk cost fallacy, right? Those people might not have, they just might stay how they are because they've spent so much time in the gi. But the people who are maybe listening to this podcast, blue belt, purple belts, white belts, they're noticing this, right? They have a fork in the road right now, and that's their decision. But it wouldn't be a bad idea, honestly, if you just drop the damn gi, and if you were a serious competitor. Like I have a student, Bree, and she just did the Subversive event, and she beat the ADCC Trials 2019 champion. She arguably beat Natalie Ribeiro, who I thought she got robbed in a split decision. This girl's been training seriously for 3 years, and she's amongst the top 10 pound for pound in the world, just purple belt. Why did I take the gi off of her and say we're not doing gi anymore? It's because I saw what Gordan did, and I saw that you need a competitive advantage if you want to be the best, the greatest. You cannot have, you just can't compete with some of these guys, these like especially Brazilians that have been training the gi for like their whole life since they were a kid. You just can't. There's too much time there. It's their stubbornness to kind of not explore the no gi and the rule set of the submission only that is giving my girl her competitive advantage. She will get destroyed by Natalie Ribeiro in the gi, right? But no gi, she won. She beat her, So how did she do that in 3 years? Because the competitive advantage of focusing on a specific thing, it's similar to how, Lloyd Irvin's talked about this and John Danaher's talked about this. A lot of great coaches have talked about this. All you need to do is take your opponent to the place where you have more experience than them. It doesn't matter how you do it. It could be with a rule set, with a uniform requirement. It can be with a move, right? Like taking somebody to a leg lock position and they don't know anything about leg locks. Well, they're going to get tapped. What just happened this weekend that I thought was crazy. I can't remember who got this submission, but I think it was at one of the competitions, and it was a heel hook. And I forgot who it was, but this guy named Hichar Noguera is very good. Ghee, I trained with this guy at Brea Jiu-Jitsu. He destroyed me. One of the best gi guys ever. He got put in the 50-50 in no gi competition over the weekend, IBJJF. He didn't know what to do. He got tapped. 50-50 heel hook. I could have got him with the 50-50 heel hook, right? Because he didn't know what it is. But in no gi. But in the gi, you can't even do heel hook. He just tooled me. He tooled me. But what I saw happen to him, the guy he faced, I forgot who it was, but it was somebody who hasn't been training like a long time. It was like somebody who you didn't expect him to beat a guy like Hichar, and he beat him with a heel hook, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, this is crazy. I rolled this guy's a god in the gym in the gi, but you take off the gi, it's like he was stuck in a position, he didn't defend it properly. So anyway, that if you're a competitor, I think now is the time to decide. And if I was your coach and I was saying, you got to follow where the trends are, the money, you got to focus on no gi. Gordan is right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, for that top money, but I will I will push back a little bit and
for
say,
competitors.
Well, even for competitors, I would just say that the gi will definitely be there.
Yeah.
Right. And if everyone makes that shift, then maybe you could stand out in gi.
Maybe
if you truly
yeah.
love it.
Maybe.
But it won't be
if it still exists.
Yeah, I think they'll always be around.
If there's still a way for you to build a brand, I guess.
Yeah, and I think there will. Like, because
right.
there's plenty of gi companies that'll still sponsor these guys, and they could be, big fish in the smaller pond, of the gi world. I believe there still will be a market, because it goes to the question I'm talking about outside of competition about the lore.
Yeah.
Because there are the competitors, but then there are, let's face it, there are fashionistas. There are people that have these gi.
Oh, that was something I wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
Which was the gi. man,
subculture,
I hated
right?
that subculture. I hate strong word. I hated it for myself because I got sucked into it.
Regardless of whether
Show
you're
your
a part,
roles.
Yeah, there you are. But you can't deny them.
Right,
They
it
have a
exists.
presence, and
Yeah.
it's a thing. Now,
Right.
whether or not we agree with it or not, it is a thing.
Right,
It's
It's a
there.
thing.
It's
a
like
thing.
sneakerheads.
Yeah, it's a little. Yeah, I'm not gonna judge. To me, it's not for me. It's I see that stuff, and I stay away from that stuff nowadays as much as I can. That's cosmetics. That's kinda,
I love
it's
it.
A weird
If
thing.
it makes someone feel good to drop, $400. I mean, again, anything that brings money, that brings people, whatever the connection is, I don't mind. Like I remember a friend of mine, they had a white Ghee only protocol, right, at their gym. And then they flipped when I told them that I got my daughter a pink Ghee. Oh, how could you do? I'm like, she wanted a pink Ghee. And if it takes a pink Ghee to get my kid, what are we doing? It's like, I will get her a pink Ghee if that makes her feel good about training.
Right.
It's like, I don't have a problem with that. And that goes with the Ghee culture. Not my thing, but I understand and I actually appreciate when people do make it their thing. I think it's cool when people they're emphatic about it and they could tell you why. Oh, their stitch is like this. I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool.
If they're into the craft, I think I can respect that.
Sure.
But that's not what 90% of people are into. They're
I
into
don't
the
know.
vanity.
Yeah, and sure, but I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know what's in their hearts.
It's
or in
hard
their
for
head.
me. Look, it's hard for me not to cast judgment and say this, but I just have to say it because to me, I was stuck in there too, where it was like, I just wanted to look cool. I cared about how I looked, and I got rid of that desire maybe a few years ago, but that I don't.
But my point
I
is,
feel weird about that.
Yeah, but regardless, it
Yeah,
doesn't
it
hinge on
exists.
you.
It's not about what I am.
So and then back to the discussion: is the Ghee dead? Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
maybe on this, I would say it's more dead than alive in one area because I don't think it'll ever be finished. Unless
finished is-
unless the individual competitor deems it.
Unless
as
it becomes
such.
racist to wear it or something, something has to go.
It's appropriation of
Yeah,
a culture
all of a
that you have
sudden,
no part of.
You better not wear that thing.
Yeah, so-
Then that's the only way it'll happen. But
That's-
I think we covered it pretty well. I think
Yeah.
the Ghee.
But the commerce, the money,
Right.
Like it just maybe not in the competition, but to say that
There's a
no
different
money,
kind of commerce.
Yes,
different
that's all
kind
I'm
of
trying to say.
commerce,
So it's like when we talk about is he dead or not, it's just I really want to kind of put that point on what we're talking
Right.
about.
Well, as
it's
a
very
school owner-
specific.
as a school owner, what do I make most of my money on when it comes to merchandise? It's Ghees.
There you go. There you go. And I'm sure, like, show your role. They'll make an argument. Well, what are you talking about? Our company's built off of selling Ghees. And it's like, yeah, you guys do it pretty well too.
Well, I'll guarantee you they make more money off of Ghees than rash guards and shorts. That's just how things work.
So it's relative. Is I guess we want people to know. I want you to know that we're not saying the Ghee's dead. It is in a certain context, but as a whole, man, I can't wait to try some.
It
of my
depends
new Ghees.
on what you're doing, right? So in my situation, I'm an academy owner. I have to follow the trends.
Your
a little
relation with
bit.
Bree.
Yes.
Like you talk about your relation with Bree. Here is where the Ghee, not right now, and we don't know when.
Well, you know what's crazy is that who gave me that idea actually. Actually, it wasn't even my idea. No, it wasn't Eric Ramey. It was her coach. It was her dad. So there was this is why her family is very successful. It's because her dad tends to lead the ship, and he sees things before other people. I don't even know how he does this, but he just does. And he told me like 3 years ago, he just called me and he didn't mince any words. He just said, Ben, we got to be done with the Ghee. The Ghee's covering her up. It's doing this. It's, she's not able to do her moves. She can't do leg locks. It's all like, and she was getting, DQ'd in some of these Jiu-Jitsu World League tournaments. And it just, he was frustrated with all that. All the things we mentioned about why the Ghee isn't great for commercial success. He already knew this like 3 years ago, which, I'm sure people knew this 10 years ago, but he articulated to me, and it just was it made so much sense that I was like, all right, we're never going to do the Ghee again. And maybe we'll do it on the weekends for fun, right? But, and then immediately I sent her a 10 Planet. It was like the next week. I was like, all right, we're going 10 Planet. And hooked up with Eric Ramey
Right
at 10
on.
Planet.
So final thoughts. Wrap this up. Yeah, we pretty much hit it pretty
it's
good.
not much to say. It's really just it's just an observation of the times. And I think for me, it's all about the individual, right? So for me, it's just I'm going to change. I'm going to focus my attention and sparring and classes and teaching a little bit more on no gi, because I love the scene. I like to be on top of the scene. I don't like to be behind. I'm not the guy that's like, oh, this stuff will never work. Let's do this funky stuff that 10 years ago worked. I'm not one of those people stuck in the past like that. I almost like to be innovative, and the only way to be innovative is to be at the cutting edge. And if the cutting edge right now is the gi, or not, is no gi because it's where the money is, then that's just where I want to be. And that's not a judgment or anybody needs to follow what I'm saying. It's just my decision, and you make your decision, And I think you, Jim, will probably train the gi more than me because you're more of a gi guy. I feel I've never seen you without a gi.
Oh no, I'm so 50-50.
You're 50-50. Okay. We trained no gi the other day.
I love no gi.
You love no gi. Okay, well,
I love no gi.
Because when I see black belts, I always see them in a gi for some reason, right? And that's almost like like an illusion.
No, I love them both as if they were both my children. I really do. I really don't love one more than the other. I just understand. I understand what we're dealing with, and for me, I kind of agree with Gordan too. And I've always said for years that if it were to ever be an Olympic sport, you gotta ditch the gi. You just have to, because you gotta It's kind of like being self-aware. It's like you gotta look at what's happening around you, and it's like, you can make a choice to try to make gi that much more popular. Cool.
Yeah, it's like skiing. It's like skiing and snowboarding. It's like one of them. Certain people just don't want to. I don't want to watch skiing, but snowboarding. You know what? When I cared about watching this stuff, when snowboarding became an Olympic sport, I was the first. I was tuning in. Skiing's been around for forever. I never watched it once.
I love skiing. I like the slalom.
You love it. Yeah. It's just a personal example.
But it's all exactly. And with that, to me, what I find value, what I love is, remember at Rodrigo's, we used to train, basically 3 days gi, 1 day no gi.
Fridays no gi.
Friday was
Friday no gi. It was the greatest, because I loved to go to Friday no gi because it was kind of looser that day.
You used to wear your MMA gloves.
Oh yeah, because I was doing MMA.
Punch people in the face, right?
Yeah, I wanted to, because one day we had a guy wear MMA gloves, and I was like, "Why is this guy wearing MMA?" He's like, "Oh, I'm preparing for a fight." I was like, "You know what? I'm wearing MMA gloves too." I don't remember who, but I just said, "You know what? I'm wearing MMA gloves too."
That's what's up.
And we, I couldn't do shit with it. I could only hold people.
Yeah,
like I really couldn't do anything
because it's a clumsy class.
I was also horrible back then, but that's pretty much it.
So the point is what I always took pride in, and this is my personal preference, and I understand, is I love just being able to go to anywhere. And I think there was an in-house tournament that ran it this way. They flip a coin to see if they were going gi or no gi.
That's pretty weird.
I loved it. To me, that's like any place, anytime, any rule set. Flip a coin. I don't care. Let's go. I love that.
You know what I like about the gi? The last thing I'll say about the gi is that
cross chokes. Cross chokes are pretty cool. Bow and arrow chokes.
I like rear naked choke better for some reason. Arm triangle, but is that there's less uncertainty, because if you go to my gym, right, and we're training the gi, right, you see what color belt I'm wearing. You know what the other students' belts are, and it's you kind of there's
roll accordingly.
You kind of it's like you it's less of a anxiety because you kind of know what's up. I remember going to Paragon once, and it was no gi day. Everybody had a black rash guard on. I was like, oh god, everybody's black belt today. So I performed like shit because I had preconceived in my head that everyone was a black belt. And I literally later found out that, that was a purple belt, that was a blue belt, that was a black belt, that was a black belt, that was a purple. But, I thought everyone was a black because I just thought black, like rash guard, black belt.
Implies, yeah.
Look buff, I'm going to roll to this level. And it is what it is. That's more my problem than the gi, but that's another thing that I notice, So, yeah, that's it, Jim.
All right, so if you waited in line for the latest Show You Roll Ghee, go ahead and Instagram Coach Ben on his
I still have a few of those. If anybody wants,
maybe he'll sell them to you.
Look, 82. If you comment below and you I might just send you a show your roll. 'Cause I have these
snap.
old show your rolls. They're probably worth like hundreds of dollars, to be honest. But I don't care. You know, I'd rather have somebody that wears it than somebody that collects it.
There you go. Comment below, and you never know. He might just get flippy one day, and you wake up in your Instagram
I might just
DMs.
send it to you. I don't.
He'll be asking you for your address.
I'm a minimalist
He's
now.
a minimalist.
I throw everything away.
All right. So at Coach BZ.
At Coach BZ. Just comment on the YouTube video. YouTube. Go to the
right.
YouTube. If you're listening on the RSS feed or the Apple podcast, don't comment there because I don't read those.
Yeah, go to the YouTube channel and
Jiu-Jitsu
comment
Mag
on that.
YouTube.
That's what's up.
Make a comment. Say I want the show you roll. And you know what? We'll see. We'll see how many. We'll see how many we get.
See what
if there's like only one person, you got it.
All right. He's Coach Ben Zhuang. I'm Jim Lawson. Thanks for joining us, everyone. We'll see you on the next one. Peace. Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Jim.